looking back on our life, if we didn't do XYZ, if I didn't open the store, if I didn't open the firm, if I didn't try this, would I regret not having done it? And if the answer is, okay, then maybe it's not that important to you. Your why is not big enough then to get you through all the muck you're going to have to go through. But if it is, oh my gosh, I would regret that so much, then you know what? You need to go for it.
Welcome to Business Origin Stories. I'm Amy Schutte, your guide to crafting a magnetic message for a profitable business. This is the podcast for you if you're ready to claim the transformative power of your own origin story and use it to create a brand that finally stands out. We're here to level up, but more importantly, I'm here to help you elevate your influence, your community, and your impact on the world. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. And remember, the stories you tell yourself are your greatest currency.
Today, I'm interviewing one of my former clients, Lou Zook. We connected in 2023, right before she was launching her Celebrate by Lisa Lou shop, where she sells curated tablescapes. They're stunning. You're going to love this podcast because Lisa is an incredible storyteller. Oftentimes for our clients, when we're doing branding work, messaging, marketing, whatever it is that we're working on coaching, there's a shift that happens. I have never had a client like Lisa. I'll be very honest. I have never had a client that has changed me to my core the way Lisa has, because she shares stories and she has this mission, like such a big why. Her main desire is to bring people back together through happy occasions and everyday living, which is why her shop is called Celebrate. But she is just a huge proponent of celebrating life's everyday moments, creating healthy families. She's all about bringing families back to the table, sharing meals. We talk about that a lot on this podcast. It's ancient wisdom, really, this connection with people, being with other people, connecting over food, breaking bread. All that to say, I'm so excited for you to meet Lou Zook. Well, Lisa, I'm so grateful you're here. This is going to be so fun. Can you tell me where you are right now?
I'm in Houston, Texas, and I'm officially at my husband's office, Caz Investments. That's C-A-Z Investments. Mm-hmm. Proud of him. And I do, okay, this is shameless, but I do have to push a little plug. He just released a book called The Holy Grail of Investing that he co-authored with Tony Robbins. We're very excited. It hit the #1 New York Times best-selling list. I was like, oh my gosh, my husband's a #1 best-selling author. It was fabulous. So anyway, but he has obviously all the Zoom rooms. I was like, honey, can I use your Zoom room? I don't have anything at home. So anyway, that's where I am.
I love the plug because I hope he'll come talk to me soon, because
I bet he would.
Thought the book was so great. I think this is like, what a cool connection and what a great opportunity. You guys have deep roots in Texas.
We do.
So I want to talk about that because I think that's pretty cool. And I think that leads into it's not necessarily the problem you're solving in the world, but the expansion you're creating in the world with your shop. So tell me a little bit about Texas history for you, because I think that's pretty cool. And then what do you do, Lisa? Why are we here today? Give people a little taste of what you do with your shop. And then I want to talk about your mission.
Texas, I could talk all day long about. When you think about my grandson, who will be 2 in June, he is a 5th generation, at least on my side of the family, and I need to check on my daughter-in-law's side. He is a 5th generation Texan. So wow. My granddad was born here in 1911 in a little town called Throckmorton between the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Lubbock. I had 2 very different sides of my family. I had my true Texas root side with my granddad. He owned he was the youngest of 7 boys.
Wow.
And I always say, I don't know if anyone remembers the show Bonanza, kind of that Wild West show. I said, that would have been my granddad's life growing up. He was the youngest of 7 boys, being reared by his father. His mother was very sick most of his life. And all just very good looking guys and true cowboy. I mean, what you think of as a stereotypical cowboy, so wonderful. Anyway, grew up, married my mama. Granddaddy opened gas stations. He was a true entrepreneur, opened gas stations all over the panhandle of Texas called Walt Williamson gas stations. So I remember that he sold the company. I think I was about 7 years old. And I can remember he had, when he sold the company, he had car washes that were connected to the gas station. Of course, they were the hand car washes that you would use. And I'm sure he did this partly to make an impression on a little girl, but he would take me with him and he'd say, Lisa, let's go get all the coins out of the car wash. And he would walk up there. Of course, he would ceremoniously take his cowboy hat off. He'd open that thing up and the coins would just come spilling in. And of course, little 7-year-old girl was like, oh my gosh, all these coins. It was so fabulous. That's how I remember my granddad. But I don't remember the business side too much. Then he went back into cattle ranching, which was his true love. He was a rancher at heart. We still have his land to this day. Some of it is in Spur, which is Dickens County, some outside of Lubbock and Plainview. In Levelland. We had it at Plainview for a while in that area. And just a true, beautiful, incredible man. Ma'am and Granddad loved to entertain. I love to tell the story of them. This kind of goes back to my Texas roots too. When they married on leap year day, February 29th, my ma'am and Granddad. And this is on my mom's side of the family. Isn't that cute? They somewhat eloped. I mean, the parents knew they were going, but no one else did. And the parents tried to talk them out of it. It's like, you're getting married on, you're only going to have an anniversary every 4 years because you're marrying, on February 29th. And Granddad, it was, again, 11, 21, 30, early 30s, so late 20s, early 30s. He said, well, if times are like they are now, I can only afford an anniversary every 4 years anyway. So we laughed that, okay, you know what? They haven't had that many anniversaries, but so precious, but they still entertained even during those tough times. So I remember Mama telling me a story. They had 3 sets of utensils. And it would be Mama and Granddad. They would invite another couple over to dinner and share whatever they had. Well, they would give their guests the full set of utensils. That meant my Mama and Granddad only had 1 set to share between them. And so Mama would cut her steak or whatever they're eating, and she'd pass it under the table to my Granddad, and he would take the knife. He'd cut what he was eating. He'd pass that utensil back. And it just, that is really what drives me as far as you have to remember. What they were showing was hospitality.
Yes.
It wasn't about entertaining. And there is a difference. And we can talk about that more. Remind me to talk about that. But back to the Texas side. So that was my maternal side of the family. Then my paternal side of the family, my dad, he was born in Dallas. And he came late in life to my grandparents. They were in their 40s, mid 40s. Of course, back then in the 1930s, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, you're 3/4 dead at that point.
Yeah.
You didn't expect a baby to come along. So he was an established executive with Sinclair Oil. If you remember Sinclair with the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
He was one of the original executives. So they were already living this executive life in the oil business, being in Texas. And here comes this little boy. So Daddy, being an only child, grew up just going everywhere. He had oysters by the time he was 3, just living a very, very different life. And obviously grew up in a home that also entertained excessively, but in different ways. So I had both of that coming down, and my sweet mom was so good about teaching me how to entertain, how to show hospitality. She would let me set the table when we were getting ready to have big events, and I felt so proud of my table. It was always good. But anyway, that's getting back to the Texas. That's the Texas side that came down from there. And then, of course, our grandson is, again, a 5th-generation Texan, which we're very, very proud about. We have a joke in our family. If anyone is born outside of Texas, we ship them soil, just so they'll be born on Texas soil, so we can still say everyone in our family is born in Texas.
That's adorable. That's adorable. At least I love this because I think, I probably wouldn't ask this question of everyone that comes on the podcast by any means, but I think for you, the sense of place, the sense of community building, where you are, the roots, and then the storytelling piece where you're saying, this is why it's so important. It creates you in a way that there's no one that can mimic anything that you're saying, right? This is part of the power of personal brand and storytelling. So that's really why I wanted you to touch on why Texas, because you are proud of Texas and it is part of your brand in a way that is really powerful.
Oh, you're sweet. And thank you. And we always say, yes, we have many generations in my family of Texans, but being a Texan is a characteristic trait. We said, someone, you could move here right now, Amy, and you would be a Texan. It's that entrepreneurial spirit. It is, I'm going to work hard. I'm sitting here in Houston in the oil capital of the world.
Yes.
And these are families that truly dug with their hands to create what they had, just incredible things. No one sleeps around here for the most part. Yeah. And so, we could have several generations of Texans here that don't have that ethic, and we'd be going, you're not a real Texan. We believe in working hard and freedom and helping each other, lifting each other up when we need help. And it's so important in community and connection. We're people of faith for the most part. And that's really what drives us too. And that's very, very important.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And so out of all of this hospitality and this entertainment, well, I want to get into what those mean to you in just a minute. But out of that, in the last year, you have created, well, it started before last year, but you have created a space where those two things come together. Tell me a little bit about your shop, because this is really cool. And this is how we connected. Just for some background for everyone listening, Lisa and I got a chance to work together last year. We did a little rebrand, refresh. You have such a beautiful brand. We helped kind of get your website and work through personal brand, business brand, all the good stuff. You've launched out in the world and you have an actual place. Can you tell me about your shop? And I think that will lead us into the hospitality entertaining.
It was truly a dream come true. I remember before we had a child, and our son's 28 now, driving home from college one day. My husband and I are high school sweethearts. So share lots of memories together. And I wanted a shop. Even then, I said, I want that place of connection. I don't know what was driving that. I had always wanted that. I wasn't even sure what it would look like, but I always had that desire, which is kind of ironic since I never worked retail. But I wanted that shop. Had a child, was fully immersed in being a stay-home mom, yet ran, half the organizations I was involved in. So I was always very, very busy. And I enjoyed that. It was great. When our son graduated, I have a dear friend that is a wonderful mentor. She, at one time, had been the chairman of the State Board of Education in Texas. And she told me, she said, Lisa, when your last child, which for me, my only child, we have one, is about a junior in high school. And I share this with all moms. I think this is so important. You start writing down everything you've dreamed of doing that you've put on hold for 20 plus years. And she said, what's going to happen? You're going to start getting excited about that last one leaving home. And it's going to make it not quite so painful, not quite so hard. You're actually going to be pushing them out the door going, you got to go. Mama's got things she's got to do. And it's exciting. And she even said, you're not going to do probably 98% of what you write down, but it's going to get you dreaming and excited about the future. So I did that. One of the things was writing blogs in a store. My degree is in journalism from Texas Tech, and I love to write. So as soon as our son was out of high school, I started writing blogs on social, I like to call them soft skills, etiquette, but it's more than just dining etiquette. I like soft skills because everyone needs to know how to interact with each other.
Right.
Loved it. Well, I started getting questions. I thought, okay, this was really almost just more therapeutic for me. I wasn't even sure where it would go. So I hired a sweet couple that does marketing here in Houston. They started putting things, on the website online. We started getting questions. Those questions led to reels doing the soft skills, and here we went. And it was really interesting to see it take off. I just started answering questions that people were asking me. So from there, we thought, okay, let's open an e-commerce store, because naturally all the questions were, oh, that's great, all the table things you're talking about, but where can I buy it? Where do I find these things? It's like, we need to supply a place. So from the table decor side, I wanted to supply, have a store that supplied things that people would need. But I always promote hospitality over entertaining. Yeah. And all the questions I would get didn't make me, I don't want to say made me worry. It made me kind of sad for especially our younger generation, and even people my age and older, that it was all about entertaining. Well, I don't have the right plates. I don't have the utensils. Well, I don't know how to cook. And so they wouldn't entertain. I was like, okay, then we're missing the boat. And I'll tell you when I switched my thinking on this was when I was a young mom, and my husband and I entertained quite a bit. Yeah. But I would stress. And I wasn't always the nicest person, sometimes getting the house ready and, all that. And I remember my husband sat me down after one party and he said, honey, if entertaining stresses you out so much, then why are we doing it? And it was like, whoa, slap in the face. Yeah. And it's like, I had to do a reality check. Wow. I was like, okay. You're right. I said, I've got my priorities backwards. It's about hospitality, and the entertaining comes next. And what do I mean by that? Hospitality can be, I'm going to order pizza and serve it on paper plate, and we're going to sit down over the coffee table. Right. I'm going to bring you in and feed you and fill your tummy. That's hospitality. Entertaining and hospitality is about others, is what I like to say. It's about others.
Okay.
Entertaining is about, look at me, look what I did. Look how beautiful my table is, my home is. Now, let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with that. I've thrown many parties. A lot of them were over the top entertaining. I've thrown many galas over the top. There is a time and a place for that.
Yeah.
But for the everyday in your home to bring people in, I don't know anyone that has the manpower or the stamina to try to pull something like that off every single day. Maybe once a year at Christmas or at Thanksgiving, we might throw a big, you make it a little bit bigger event. But we need to celebrate the everyday. And if you celebrate the everyday, you've got to simplify. And my easiest way to do that is to always remember hospitality over entertaining. That's what is important, hospitality over entertaining. So that was the impetus of the store, though, is I still got questions. Well, where do I buy this? How do I do it? So it's like, okay, let's create a store and provide what people need. But at the same time, I'm going to come along and educate and teach that, you know what, always remember, though, it's hospitality over entertaining. And that's what's important. And I laugh. I said, I can cook. If you ate one of my meals, you'd say, oh, that was great, Lisa. And it would be. I don't enjoy it. I just have to admit it. I just don't enjoy it. It's not my happy place. I do love to bake, but we deal with lots of allergies now in our family. And so even that's kind of lost some of its luster to me because I can't eat a lot of the things. Oh, but I love to sit down at people's feet and welcome people into my home and just be present with them. And so I often tell people, I was like, I could have let my lack of desire to cook keep me from entertaining because those were a lot of the questions I was getting of, oh, I can't cook. What if they don't like my food? Da, da, da. I said, okay, figure out what your stressor is, what your problem is, what is keeping you from showing hospitality. Now let's figure out a way to get around it. So example, what I will do, sometimes I'll have it catered, and you can do that as you get older and have a little bit more disposable income. But most of the time it's like, you know what, we're going to create a sandwich bar. People tend to like that better anyway. Or we're going to have soup and salad. I one time had 3 different sauces for pasta and just made a big pasta bowl and put them on little hot plates. It was great and it was easy and people love it. And most people you'll find will want that comfort food anyway. They want to relax. They're coming to your home to be filled and nourished themselves. So we don't have to do that. In my normal, again, I can create a great tablescape and I love to do it. My go-to at my table is a centerpiece of flowers that I will usually cut fresh from my yard, just by the way.
Okay.
Boat of candles, and I'm done.
Beautiful.
It's, put a few books around. Okay, you can see behind me, use books, stack, make height. That's all you need to do. You don't have to go at the top. That's what keeps people from showing hospitality is when they focus on the entertaining. So anyway, but the shop, back to that. The shop is all about helping people find what they need, but we also do events. So we've already had some floral decorating. It's like, okay. And again, our goal is to teach you how to entertain at home without needing any extra help if you can do it. Because the more you feel you need help to pull off a party, the less likely you are going to be to entertain. Because now it's getting too expensive. It takes too much time. Right. So we want to help you learn to entertain simply. And we do that by promoting just throw the flowers on the table, get a potted plant. I do potted plants. I will go to the local nursery and put that on my table in a basket. I love it. It's so pretty. And I kill everything anyway. So I killed a cactus. 2 cactus, actually.
The cactuses are kind of hard.
Okay, I know.
Overwater them, underwater them.
I didn't water it. My husband goes, honey, how did you kill a cactus? I said, well, I didn't water it for 2 years. And he goes, well, honey, even in the desert, it rains. I'm like, well, so I don't enjoy cooking. I don't have a green thumb. But that's my whole point is you can still show hospitality. You can do entertaining, but it's all about hospitality. And that's what you have to stay focused on. So we bring people into the shop. We're getting ready to have a cake decorating class for Easter. How fun is that? We did a Mahjong class. Mahjong's so big right now. So we did in fact, I think we did 2 already. Mahjong 101. I did one of them. I was like, it was a little hard at first, but I was like, I can so see why people enjoy this. So we did a Mahjong class. We, let's see, what else do we have coming up? The cake decorating, I can't remember. But anyway, we have about 1 or 2 events every month. And that is the part that is the community, bringing everyone together in the community, just at that place of connection. I said, in a perfect world, I'd have a bigger shop that I could have a little coffee bar and a place. I mean, many women will come in and say, oh, I'd love to just come sit and work on my needlepoint here. It's like, we'd love for you to too. So that would be my ultimate dream. have bigger or true coffee bars, sell, little box sandwiches or charcuterie boards, something like that. But we want to be that place that people just, when they have 30 minutes to go for carpool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, what do I do? It's like, oh, we'll run over to celebrate, and they can come in and sit down. And we always have fresh cookies. That was my mama's recipe. We always have coffee, just out of the Keurig, but that's what we're doing for now. So and always have water. When our UPS people come in, it's like, hey, you want, water and cookies? Hospitality, hospitality, hospitality. Wow. And I pray every day that when people walk into our shop, that they will just see that there's something different and special and unique. And for us, it's that light of Christ just shining through, that even if they don't know what it is, they'll say, you know what? There's something different there, and I want what they have. We've had ladies come in where we had little therapy sessions, impromptu. That's what women do. That's why we're there. I had one lady leave the store in tears, and it was for good reason. So I was like, okay, people are going to think, well, what's going on in that Celebrate store? But it's good. It's so good. And also, and I'll add this too, Amy, the store, this is obviously, I didn't do that. I had this dream before I had a child.
Yeah.
This came on in the next season of my life. And that's good. You realize, I think a lot of women go through, they feel like their life is over. They have no meaning once that last child is out of the house. They think their life is all about rearing that child. And it's not. That child's with you maybe 20 plus years. That's it. You got another 50, 60, 70 years, hopefully, in front of you. So God's got another plan for your life. He's not done. And we shouldn't think we are done. That's wrong. We should be productive. We should be there to help other people, to mentor other people. And so I oftentimes call this store my next chapter as a empty nester mom. It's like, okay, now I'm living my dream. What are we going to do here? And it's great. It's just really great. So I probably went on too long with that, but
no, that's my story. So beautiful, because I think the big things, right, that people should hear out of that is I loved your last points, right? You have seasons in your life for different things. You're creating a place where people can come experience the next season of your life, but it's also entering into theirs, right? You're giving them connection. You're giving them access to beautiful cutlery and beautiful entertaining pieces. And you're also teaching them your big mission, which is hospitality. And one of the things, Lisa, that you haven't talked about yet, but I really want to talk about this, because when we were working together last year, right, we were doing messaging, we were doing some of these things. I was pulling stories out of you, and you kept talking about the importance of the kitchen table and the importance of bringing families back to the table. Do you remember these conversations?
Oh, I do.
Because we talked a lot about, we talked about flowers, we talked about the umbrellas, we talked about getting the powder room ready. We talked about so many things, but the thing that changed me. This is always the thing I love when I work with people, because, there's branding is transformational. Getting good messaging is great. It launches businesses, all that stuff's great. But what I love about working with clients like you is that you have such a burning mission. And every time I left a call, I was like, oh my gosh, it made me think about my family dinners in a different way. It made me think about so many things. But that kitchen table piece, I don't know if you remember this. You told me a story about the kitchen table, just the table, its importance in a home. Do you remember this?
I believe I do.
Okay. And I'm trying to remember the exact statistic of what you were saying, but you were talking about how important it was for families to have a kitchen table and to actually eat around the table. And you don't have to pull a statistic out, but can we talk about that kitchen table piece? Because I think that is, everything else is so beautiful, but that piece of what you do is the heartbeat behind it. And I really I want people to hear you talk about it, because it definitely impacted my life. And you probably didn't know that as you were just talking about it, but it changed a lot of things for me. So can you talk about the kitchen table?
It is. When you walk into our store, and again, we don't have a huge space. When you walk into our store, one of the overriding things you will see, because it's right there in front of you, is a big farm table sitting in front of a fireplace that we can't really have a fire in, but it's a fireplace. It's a mantle. It is beautiful, and it welcomes you to the table. And that was so important to us. Every home needs a dining table. When I say dining, it can be simple. It can be, plywood on boxes. It doesn't matter what it is, but a place that brings people together. The table is the anchor in your home. It is the anchor in your family. The table is something, in a perfect world, the dinner table, families would come together and break bread together every single night. I was a mom. I know that's not realistic. You've got sports, you're going crazy and all that, but there's other ways you can still do that. But it's so important. I think the stat we were talking about, I had a friend that they ran apartment complexes and some low-end apartment complexes. And one of the things they look for to see if the health of a family when they would walk in is if that apartment home had any place to bring the family together to eat a meal. Didn't matter if it was a coffee table and they ate around the coffee table. That doesn't matter. Where are you coming together as a family? You think about it, the table is a happy place. It's where you do share meals together. Everyone gets happy when they have a good meal and their tummy's full. It's a place where you communicate with your children and your spouse. It's a place you have arguments. You discuss politics. You're going over homework with your children. You're paying bills. So much happens around that table. The table is so important. If you look throughout the Bible, the table's mentioned all throughout the Bible. And all I have to say is, well, if you look at Jesus, so much of his ministry, we call it a table ministry, was done around the table. The Last Supper was done around the table. Oh, I always cry when I talk about this. What is the first thing we'll do when we are in heaven with God at the end of all this? He has a big banquet. Okay, if that is the most important thing and the first thing God has us come to, well, that tells you there's something a little important. A lot of people that are believers feel that the table is almost a spiritual connection to God. I'm not saying it is, but it is as close to heaven as we get here on earth. It's so important to have that table in your home and to dine together and to break bread. It's where we teach our child manners. Okay, going off on a little tangent there.
Yeah.
Oh, how do you teach your child table manners if you're not around a table?
Yeah.
It's a little tough to do. Now, again, realistically, there were many times we were eating at the local Whataburger in Texas is what we have. Instead, we have McDonald's, but we love our Whataburger. I still would take the plastic utensils. I'd take him out of the little plastic bag. I would set his table exactly like it was supposed to be because so much of it is just, muscle memory. You want them to see it. So I always tell people, set the table fully for every meal, even if you're having sandwiches, especially if you have little children in the home. Now, as an adult, no, you don't have to do that. But it teaches them this is what it's supposed to look like when they sit down. And my goal was if I can at least instill those social skills, those dining etiquette tips and knowledge into my son when he's little, it would become so second nature to him that at least when he was in high school and dating and all the other pressures of life, he wouldn't have to worry about, am I using the right fork and all that. None of that would even be an issue because it's just so who he is. He knew his manners so well. By 7, my husband was taking him on client appointments because he knew what to do. He knew how to shake hands. He knew how to look people in the eye. And it was nothing more. Every bit of that occurred around the table. One little tip for my moms and the dads. Okay, this was fun. As parents, when you look back on how you reared your children, you think, okay, we all make mistakes. But you need to celebrate the things you did well too. I was like, we made our share of mistakes. But one of the things I love that worked very well about how do we teach really a child table manners where it's going to be fun. Right. So I created a game. I called it the quarter game.
Okay.
Very simple, but we all brought quarters to the table at dinner time. And, especially with boys too, but children, you love competition and games and all that. So if anyone caught the other person making a mistake with their dining etiquette, so if someone forgot to put their napkin in their lap, whoever caught them could go, oh, you didn't put your napkin in a lap. And that person had to give the person that caught them a quarter. Oh, so fun. My husband, who has impeccable manners, but of course, as parents trying to teach your children, we would mess up. So maybe my husband might talk with food in his mouth and our son could go, oh, Daddy, I caught you, talking with food in your mouth. And, my husband, oh, you did. And, he'd give our son a quarter. But then we could catch our son as well and go, oh, Kaz, you didn't put your napkin in your lap. He said, oh. Yeah. And so we called it the quarter game. We would have this competition. And it was great. It was
gamified. You gamified it for them.
We gamified it, which is the best way to learn. So anyway, but the importance of the table, it is so important to have that family time. And again, it can be around the coffee table. It can be sandwiches. It can be takeout. It can be pizza. It's a physical anchor that brings people together. And it's a time of, hopefully, and again, if you're having a little bit of an argument with your family, maybe not, but even then it's a time of healing and connection. But it's a time to come together and ask each other, how was your day? How did school go? Tell me one good thing that happened to you today. What act of kindness did you show to someone today? It's all just about doing life and teaching those social skills and manners. And it's really, really important. So anyway, if you walk into our store, you will see this big old farm table sitting right there. And it takes up a lot of space. Or sometimes I've been saying, okay, do we need to get that out of there? But no, our team says, no, that's what we're about. It's all about coming back to the table. And it's a great place to display all our tableware too. So,
well, yeah, I was going to say that's perfect for that. And okay, it's the apartment story that stayed with me last year, because I remember when you told me that and I was like, I don't know if I've ever thought about the table in that way. Because you're right. We do a lot of life around the table, but my kids are little. We're also running amok,
so
we're here and there and everywhere else. And so after you told me some of those things, I definitely made more of an effort to say, okay, this is why this is so important. Because we think we're connecting with our family, right? You're in the car with them, you're running here and there. And what you instilled in me last year, whether you know that or not, is now you know, but is just that important of the slowdown, the importance of the connection over food and why that is so important. And I think we're living in a society, in a world that doesn't value that. And so for you to be the mentor, really to say like, whoa, this is why manners matter. This is why this matters. I think for a lot of younger moms, or maybe we didn't have examples like you did. My mom sets a great table too, but a lot of us don't have that example. And so for you to be filling the space to talk about connection and hospitality with the beautiful things or without is exquisite to me. Like I love it. I bought my son.
You're so sweet.
Of course. Yes. I want you to know this because you're feeling something cool, but I bought my oldest son, some like conversation cards, for Christmas. And so we do that at the table now. It's our game, right? He loves it. We all pass around, and do the cards, and they'll have the fun questions. Cause sometimes you can get kind of stale, or you know what I mean? Like, how's your day? It's fine. It's fine. Yes. So those questions have been really fun. Everyone pulls one and it's like, what's on your bucket list? What do you love? What do you do or what do your parents do that makes you feel loved? Those kind of questions.
I love that one. That's a great one.
It's been really fun for our family. So, but it was inspired by you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's important too, when you're talking about the table, we can all go to a bar and sit at a kitchen counter and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Right.
But the actual table where you're facing each other is so important. And I'm not even going to pretend to give you the statistics because I can't remember them, but there is something physical that happens when you're only 2 to 3 feet apart from each other and you're looking each other in the eyes and you're staring at each other and having to have a conversation. One, it helps with little children with their vocabulary, with their words, because they're watching your mouth move. They can't do that if they're sitting next to you over here and you're both looking the same direction. It is literally that connection where you could almost form a circle and grab hands. That is so important to do whenever you can. And let me tell you, truly, I am realistic. Again, we live, even with one child, we had a very busy life. When my husband opened his firm, it was right before 911, literally about 3 weeks, which is a whole God story I could tell you about another time. For about 2 years, I mean, you can imagine it was 24/7 for him. It was really, really tough. Our son was 5. So from 5 to 7, daddy was barely home in the evening. So what do you do there? So every night, for the most part, and he was home on the weekends, of course, but even then he had to work most of the time, I would pack a picnic dinner, and my son and I would go up to the office. Daddy would stop. We would throw out a blanket or sit around the desk, and we sat around the desk and shared a meal together. It didn't matter. That was our table at the time. But we connected, we talked, we stopped, we breathed, we rested. And that's so important. So there are ways you can continue to do that. If it's a sporting event that you've got your children at, you know what? After that game, you can sit down and have a little picnic lunch together. Again, if you are at the fast food shop, that's fine. There's a table. You can sit around there. It doesn't matter. The key is just being together and having that place of connection and figuring out how to do that. And that's important.
That is so beautiful, Lisa. I love that. And I think what you're doing with your store, right? Because you're saying hospitality is important, but also we've got all the beautiful things to make it really great. I'm really curious because when we were working together, we were kind of looking at who the demographic might be. We were making assumptions. We knew some. Now that your store is open, I'm really curious. Are you getting the young 30s that are like, I don't know how to do this, teach me? Or are you attracting the crowd in a different season that's like, I've done this, I'm ready to upgrade? I'm just really curious now that you're really in it. Who's coming? Who's loving what you're doing? Everyone should
It's
follow
interesting.
you
We
after
really,
they listen,
yeah,
but
it's really all of the above. And
okay.
again, we've only been open since the second week in December. Did not run any ads up to that point. We've started doing that the last few weeks, but it has been interesting. The people coming in, we have our younger demographic, and then our older demographic that's my age and older. You have the younger demographic. A lot of them have said, "Oh, we need help entertaining. I'm not sure how to do this. I don't have the right things." Obviously, from that standpoint, that's who we can help. But the interesting thing, the older demographic, I've had a lot of that too, of, oh, I'd like to entertain more, but I don't know how to set my table. I just never did that. I've always wanted to, but I don't know how, or it's too expensive. What we find with our younger generation is a lot of them aren't registering anymore when they get married, like we all did. A lot do, but we're starting to see an increase in those that don't.
Okay.
What happens though, then they hit their 30-something, start having a little bit of disposable income. They're ready to start entertaining, but they don't have what they need because they didn't get it when they were married, or maybe it hasn't been passed down in their family, whatever the reason is. So you have that demographic. Well, we are very much in the runway world. So we actually will be launching rentals and renting our tablescapes in the next few months. We're very excited. That was already part of our business plan. We just had to put it on hold for a while. It was a hard enough lift just getting the store open.
Sure.
What's been interesting, we've had probably about 5 or 6 people in our younger generation come in unsolicited, ask us, "Oh, are you going to be renting your tablescape?" It's like, well, funny you should mention. It will not be weddings. We're not getting into any of that. It is strictly to help people and teach them how to entertain at home. That is our goal, is how do you bring everyone back to the dinner table where we can celebrate the simple things in life, the everyday. Pull out your china. For that Monday night dinner. What better way to celebrate a Monday night when you're all exhausted than pulling out your china? And I will tell you a little tip, unless your china is, I think it was before I'd say 70s. Can't remember the exact date. You can put it in the dishwasher usually. Now, I'm giving my disclaimer, that you better check that out with the maker. Yes, you hear my disclaimer, check that out with the maker first. But there was china before. It's not necessarily what I'm saying, the same rules we all grew up with, oh my gosh, you can't put it in the dishwasher, especially if you're not using it every day. If you're using it, once a month, it's usually okay. Check with the maker. But they are made a little differently now than they were when we were growing up when it was our, grandmothers and great grandmothers, china and all that. So anyway, it's, okay, so there, I chased that rabbit.
No, it's perfect. What is it about the connection? Because you're doing this in your store, which is so fun. I can't wait to come visit you one day and see it in person. But you have stressed connection throughout every interaction that we've had as we were, working on your business. Why is that so important? Why is that important to the women that are now coming? Well, I'm assuming men are coming into it, but the women that are coming into your store and they're saying, I don't know how to do this. I want to do it. Are you seeing a turn back to connection? What are you seeing from your perspective?
Very much. And again, I do worry about our younger generation, but all generations. But especially after COVID, there is such an epidemic of loneliness. That goes away for the most part if you physically are connected with people. Again, just sitting down, sharing a meal. It's amazing. When we were still in our office building, when we were building out our brick and mortar, it's the first time I'd actually ever been in an office building, a corporate environment. Because again, I volunteered all my life. And I would walk through the hall and I would just smile at people. Like, hi, good morning, all that. And I'll never forget, there was a businessman that actually stopped me. And he said, thank you so much for smiling. He said, no one ever smiles anymore. That made me sad. I came home and said to my husband, I said, is that the norm? And he goes, oh, honey, that's the norm, especially in the corporate world. And I don't see that because, again, I'm out in the community. I'm doing all my volunteer work, spend a lot of time at our church. And my mom said that recently. She said, so many people frown out in public. She goes, but there's one place they don't frown. And I said, where's that, Mom? She goes, anytime I'm in church. And I said, because there's a hope, there's a happiness, there's a connection. You're working for something outside of yourself, which is so important. Connection. It has to be about connection. It has to be about connection. And that is why we just want to bring people together. because there's something magical when you're physically with someone that just helps that loneliness go away. You cannot live a life on social media never connecting physically with people. God did not make us that way. And we go against how God made us. You know what? We're going to screw it up. Yeah. So it is all about connection. In fact, our tagline is bringing family and friends together one celebration at a time. It's like bringing family and friends together one celebration at a time. We don't care how you do it. And I may have said this to you too, Amy. Yeah. Life is a celebration.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we don't have hard times. It doesn't mean I always say you're going to laugh or cry through life. Well, I'd rather laugh. Doesn't mean those celebrations sometimes aren't haunted houses. But you know what? Even haunted houses eventually come to an end. Yeah. And they can be hard, but I much rather go through a haunted house with my friends hanging on where I can sometimes hide behind them. They can protect me. And but I'd be really scared to go through a haunted house by myself. And that's what's happening to a lot of these people, and especially our younger generation, is they're going through life without meaning, without purpose, and they're doing it alone, even though they may have thousands of followers on their social media. Okay, that's nothing. Even in a good day, but long before COVID, long before social isolation, you really could only count really on two hands the close friends you had. You've got to get out in the community. You've got to make those friendships, and you've got to work at it. Okay, real quick side story, but this is so true. My sweet mom, she'll probably kill me for saying this. She's 91. New Year's Eve baby, love that. She growing up in Lubbock, Texas, she said she did not like having a New Year's Eve birthday because it always snowed. No one could come to her parties. But as an adult, she loved it because it was always a party. So very, very fun birthday to have. Well, I watch her. She's buried two husbands. She is the most incredible woman. She has taught me how to age and how to age gracefully. Well, she's going to kill her for saying this. She said one time, she goes, honey, and she did not mean this in a negative or a woe is me way.
Okay.
One time she goes, honey, do you realize I now have more friends and this is about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe about 8 years ago. I have more friends in heaven than I do on earth. And I probably wasn't being very sympathetic at the time. And I looked at her, I said, well, Mom, I guess you need younger friends. And she looked at me, she goes, you know what? You're right. She went out and purposely, intently made more friendships. So many of her friends are 15, 20, 25, 30 years younger than her. She has a busier social life than I do. And I don't say that in an exaggerated way.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to continue to building those friendships. You need connection. You need people in your life. We were not meant to be by ourselves. And that's obviously hard when you're a widow or widower, but that's even more of a reason to be connected in the community. We have a wonderful retirement home, literally within walking distance of our store, called The Tradition. It is fabulous. It's so beautiful. I went there to take pictures on how I should decorate my home because it was gorgeous. I was like, okay, that's saying something. Yeah. They've done a fabulous job. Our very first customer was one of the ladies at The Tradition had walked down and came into our store. Oh. And I said, you know what? It's all about the community from the very old to the very young, but we have to connect. We have to.
Mm-hmm. What are some tips to do that? I'm just thinking, because I think that sounds so beautiful. And I'm wondering for people listening and they're going, that's great. I love that. But I'm running around. I'm trying to build a business. I'm probably raising kids. I'm just, I don't have time. You gave me some tips last year. I don't know if I'll bring them up, but that were so sweet about, how to connect with other people and different things. But this hospitality piece, you're saying, bring people over, give them pizza. But tell me, what are 2 tips that you'd give to a younger woman in that space that's just grinding and tired and like, I don't have time for connection, Lisa? What are you talking about?
Okay, I do remember one that we talked about. I hope you don't mind me sharing.
Yeah.
You just in passing, we were talking and I was saying, getting together, having parties, come over just for pizza. Again, doesn't have to be fancy. And you mentioned something that's hard when there's children. I'd love to do that even at our school, but we're all running around. We're all so busy. And I don't remember how exactly I said it, but I said, well, do you do carpool? And you're like, yes, we all go to the games. And, carpool's like, okay, so open up the back of the trunk and give everyone a sandwich. Yep. I said, have an impromptu tailgate.
Yep.
That's connection. That is coming together. You're already there. The only thing missing is the food. So everyone bring their own sack lunch. So you know what? Everyone meet 15 minutes early and we're going to have a sack lunch, or someone bring a cake and let's have a slice together. That is all you have to do. Does it take a little preparation? Of course. But you know what? I can actually even run through the Whataburger, the McDonald's, whatever you have in your area. I can run to the grocery store, pick up already baked goods and bring them. We can sit down and enjoy a cookie together. It does not have to be fancy. People, and again, it does take a little preparation, but there are so many ways around it. So I always say, figure out why you're not doing it, why you're not entertaining, while you're not getting together and showing hospitality. What is the pain point? You have to identify that first. Otherwise, you don't know how to overcome it. And it just seems overwhelming. Then you can figure out a way around it. So I do remember that one there. And I was like,
no, I loved that one.
You know?
And I was
how
like,
easy is that?
That's so smart. I love that. Let's do that.
Smart. You go to the park, especially if you have little ones and you're still taking them to the park. Okay, that's hospitality. It's, you know what, you bring sandwiches, I'll bring the dessert, and we'll have a little fun time, get all the moms together. Okay, that's an impromptu gathering. That's hospitality. So it doesn't have to be fancy or big, but it does need to be on a regular basis. And that's what's important, to have that connection. Being involved in a Bible study, we're real big on that here. Anything like that brings you, that connects you together is so important.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I think I want to talk about the season piece with you, because it's something you and I are both passionate about, because you had this beautiful season as a mom and doing your volunteer space, but now you're building a business and you're doing it in just the most beautiful way. And this is important for you, like with your team, because what I hear you saying is like, what do you value? You have to understand, what do you value? So do you value slowing down enough to create that connection? If that's not a value, make it a value, right? Because it's so critical. So figure that piece out. And then how are you baking that value into your life? Are there different ways you can start doing that? So you're doing that with your business. You value this with your business. It's something you value with your team. Can you talk to me a little bit about that season of life piece and catering to that as a business owner? Because I don't think a lot of business owners are thinking about that. And I think you're doing it in a way that is interesting and worth paying attention to.
So when you're saying I'm doing that in my season of life, what are you
sorry, before we started recording, we talked about your team and kind of your bigger bench and making it that way for a reason, so that everyone can have the space that they need to be doing the life that they need to be living. And I think that's really interesting with your employees, because you're baking that value into what you're doing as a business owner.
Yes.
So you're living it out, you're talking about it, and now you're baking it into your business with your team. And I think that's fascinating. Can we talk about that?
Yes. When I started the business, what was important to me, obviously, is the outward mission I was on. Community connection, being there, the center hub in our neighborhood.
Yes.
But my mission was also equally as strong, my internal mission with the team I was putting together.
Yes.
And I do remember it was hard when you have little ones at home. You are busy, and it's like, okay, if I can just change my little corner of the world, just my little team, what can I do as a mission for them, to provide for them, to help them, for those that want to work, but be able to, what's the greatest need, especially if you're a working mom? It's flexibility, usually. Yeah. You need that time to be at your children's events where you don't have to be in the store every day, that people will understand, when you're pregnant and not feeling real well. It's just, all those things that come with that season of life. And I thought, if I can help just make it a little bit easier for those women, I want to do that. And I heard over and over from so many people. It's actually why we had a lot of people, once I got my core team together, then we had a bigger group that started coming and applying for jobs, because they said, no one's doing what you're doing, especially in the corporate world. And, I can understand that. I see both sides of that coin, because it is hard. It is hard to run a true corporate business and, give people time off all the time. I'm not going to say every business can do that, but I do think there are ways you can structure it as a business owner, depending on your business. So I chose, again, to go with a wider bench that wasn't as deep, that we could all help each other. And I believe we have now 10 people that are all working together to run this one little store. But everyone works just 1-2 days a week, except for kind of the core group that's been there for about a year and a half now, 2 years. We'll work full time, but we can work whenever we want. Sometimes it's at midnight on a Thursday. We're returning emails to each other. Some days it's like, I can't be in the store today. That's fine, because we got other people to cover it. So my mission is very internal as much as it is external. And that goes back to the family.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the table. This is so
Yes.
important, y'all. Everyone needs to, we have to understand this. I think our society tends to fix everyone else first, but you can't fix other people if you don't fix yourself. If you don't have a healthy family, how are you going to have a healthy society? It starts at home. If everyone just fixed their home, guess what? We'd have a healthy society. It's not, rocket science. Starts at home. With the business side, my home is my Celebrate family. It's like, okay, let's start there. Let's make sure everyone is happy and healthy. And, we got a lot that are going through health issues in their own families. And we hope we're there for each other. We try to be there for each other just to lift each other up. And that's so, so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think, as I was phrasing my question earlier, you have this mission and living it and then actually practicing it. And you're a savvy businesswoman. Like this is, you're doing something that's important, but you're also your husband has been in business for a long time. You know the ropes here. And I think that's really important for people to hear because, what are we doing if not doing good things in the world? And so I love that you're
why are we doing what we're doing? And it's hard. My husband and I both, we love what we do. So, we do work a lot, and the way the businesses have been growing, it's been tough. It takes a lot of time. But remembering to slow down and no matter how busy my husband is, we always have dinner together. And again, it's a little easier for us right now.
Yeah.
We're empty nesters.
Yeah.
But we sit down together. Every night we sit down together. If he gets home a little later than normal, I like to eat a little earlier. Sometimes I might have already eaten, but I sit down and I'll share, food with him. We'll sit there and have a drink, whatever we do, but we sit there face to face and just have that time. It's so, so important to have that connection. That's where we connect every single night. You've got to have that for the health of your marriage and the health of your family. And the best way to have healthy children, for the most part, is to have a healthy marriage. If you have a healthy marriage, you're going to tend to rear healthy children.
Yeah. Is that because you guys were high school sweethearts? Is that something you guys established early on, or is that something that you learned along the way that you were like, this is now our rule as a couple? Like, we value this so much. I'm curious about that.
It was always a part of my family. And we started dating so young. I mean, my husband was 15. I was 17.
Oh my gosh.
So I think I know we were babies. That it really became a part of our dating life too. And like anything, you spend a lot of time at each other's homes. And so whenever he was over at my home, we sat around the table and had dinner. That was always very important in my family. I don't remember ever not doing that. I'm sure there were many times we didn't, but those are not my memories. My memories are sitting at the table together. My memories are coming in and smelling something wonderful on the stove. And it might be literally, what we have, Welsh rarebit, if I'm saying that correctly. Just, I could smell the cheese that we would pour over our bread and with tomatoes and ham. I mean, again, very simple. But I remember that, my mom always had chili con queso on the stove waiting when I came home from college. It was just that place of connection. And so we always did that in our dating life and in our married life. We really made a point of it, and we verbally committed to it, especially when we had our child. This is so important. We've got to do this. So even when he was little and still in his high chair, we'd pull that high chair up around the table. It was a great reading time too. Oh my gosh, y'all, they're captured. They're not running around, especially when they're toddlers and you can't, they're fast. He would sit in his high chair. We'd eat our meal, and then I'd put books on his little high chair, and my husband would read to him during that time. It was great reading time. So there's just so much you can do around the table, but you do have to be intentional. That is what is important. If there's one takeaway, I always hear, I can't. My answer is, you can, but you may have to give up something.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize. It's like, okay, what's more important, having time together as a family or going to another sporting activity?
Yeah.
What's going to make your child healthier because they really got to play soccer when they were 5, or the family time around the table? I'm not saying you can't do both. We did both. Again, we had one child. So I'm very realistic about this, and I'm not saying it's every night, but there are ways around it. I've known families that had larger families with more children. Each child got to pick one sport. The parents didn't have time to go to all the different sports. You literally couldn't. You would be on the go all the time. And they would say, for the health of our family, we have to pick and choose. And I think that's where a lot of us, and I'm sure I was guilty of it too, go, oh, we've got to, give our children all these opportunities. Well, all the opportunities in the world will not rear a healthy child, but a healthy family will rear a healthy child. So it's finding that balance and that priority, and that's so important.
So beautiful. And I think not a message that's missing in the world, but I don't think it's loud enough anymore. I think we've gotten so far away from those things that, that we value. And part of it is American culture, right? Where we build bigger businesses and do bigger things, right? You're seeing it. And so thank you for being this voice, right? To say this is important, because family is important. It's why I started my company, right? I wanted more time with my baby. I wanted more of this a different way to do things. And you're right. I can't as a lot is, but you absolutely can, but it is the intention and then the commitment to do it. And to stay committed to the course. Right. And I think that's important.
It's important. And so often people will say, I don't have time. No, we all have the same amount of time. It's how we choose to spend that time. So I don't buy it when people say, I don't have time. They're making a choice how to spend that time. And that's okay, but be honest about it. It's like, okay, I choose to spend it over here. But if you whittled away a little bit of that time, could you spend a little bit more over here? Everyone's different. I'm not going to pretend to know everyone's situation. And there are some difficult situations out there that does make it harder. But that's even more of a reason to have that insulation of friends around you, especially if you don't have a strong family around you. You need to build that network of friends that can become your family. A lot of people will say, the family not the family I have, but the family I choose. There's situations out there like that. I'm blessed with a wonderful family, and I'm so thankful for that. But I do see those difficult situations. But you know what? A lot of people can be family, and you've got to build that tribe and community around you. Okay, I do have to tell you one story that I was thinking of earlier. Okay, we were talking about entertaining. How do you do this with children? Don't say you can't. Figure out why. Figure out, okay, why am I saying I can't? What is my stressor? How's that? Well, New Year's Eve, we always spend it with my mom, obviously her birthday, but we would have big New Year's Eve parties. Well, we all know when you're in that stage with little children, usually the problem is you can't find babysitters. So, you might go out before you had children, but when you had children, you couldn't find a babysitter. So I remember our son was we did this from time he was 2 till about probably 7 years old. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to let not being able to find a babysitter keep me from having a New Year's Eve party. So how do we do this? And we had a great Bible study class at the time. So what I did, I just limited it to our Bible study class. I was like, okay, everyone in our Bible study, come on over. None of us can get babysitters. Bring the children. Everyone come in their pajamas. Adults too, if you want to. All the children are in their pajamas. Bring the pack and plays. Everyone will play. We'll have fun. When it's time to go to bed, put the children in their pack and plays all over the house, in our bedrooms. But I called it the leftover New Year's Eve party, because also at that point, we usually had entertained so much during the holidays. I was done. It's like, okay, I cannot host another party.
I can't cook anymore. I'm not doing it.
I can't. No, I cannot do it. So I called it the leftover New Year's Eve. When I sent out my invitations, I left a blank on all the invitations. And I said, everyone had to bring something. I said, okay, you bring a protein or a dessert. I didn't tell them what. I take the philosophy, if I ask you to bring something, I want you to bring what you're comfortable not making, not what I tell you to make. Yeah, so absolutely. As a hostess, you got to kind of let go of some of that control, which some hostesses have trouble doing. It's like, no, if people are helping you, you got to give a little leeway here. But I did need to provide, 4 proteins, 4 desserts, vegetables, whatever I'd say. And so I would just say protein. And then when they RSVP'd, they would just tell me what they were bringing. I didn't care as long as it was a protein. So everyone, and I encourage people, I said, if you have leftovers from Christmas, bring them. That's great. So I would open the house. I said, I will provide all the drinks. I didn't provide any food. Everyone else brought all the food. That's all I had to do. I said, the house will be clean somewhat. Last time still had Christmas gifts sitting out. The funny thing, my mom started saving the turkey carcass from our Christmas dinner, and we would embellish it. It was the most god-awful thing with olives and toothpicks and everything, and that was our centerpiece at our leftover New Year's Eve party. Okay, when you have little children, how many of their school parties are you responsible for if you're the homeroom mom? So you'd have maybe 3 Valentine paper plates left over. You might have 4 Thanksgiving plates left over. I would bring out everything from every occasion, from all those, children's parties. That's what we used to eat off of, because I wasn't going to wash dishes. It was it was not entertaining. I will tell you, it was definitely a display of hospitality because it was not a pretty party, but it was more fun. People had more fun coming to those. Again, figure out what the problem is. What is your stressor? Figure out a way to get over it. One other story I'll tell you that I loved. And
that is such a great story.
Isn't that fun? And it's easy.
So fun.
It is so easy and it's fun.
That takes the pressure away, right?
Oh, it does.
We'll open the door. Just come in here.
Yeah, come in. That's right. That is hospitality. Come in, break bread with me. One other I'll share with you. We're in an older 1950s home in Houston. We were doing some remodeling. Most of the house was torn down to its studs. And I can't remember what occasion it was, but it was like, I'm not going this season without a party. So I sent out invitations. And again, we're torn down to the studs, barely had any furniture. So I put up card tables. I probably had people bring, I think I brought, I had sandwiches. I went to like the local Subway and got the big sandwich board that you could do and had other people bring some things. They were hard hat invitations. When everyone arrived, I handed them a child's hard hat and Sharpies. And everyone went around and wrote on the studs in our home. I put confetti all over the floor because the floors were torn up too. I was like, when can I ever do this again? It was glitter everywhere. It was so much fun. But again, figure out, don't let the fact that you can't entertain perfectly, that sure wasn't perfect, but it sure was fun. And people to this day still talk about it. So you got to figure out your stressors and then figure out a way to get around it.
That is such good advice. I think that's good advice for anything in life, but I love it when it comes to entertaining. Lisa, thank you so much for your wisdom. Do you have any stories? Stories are your currency, and I love that you use them so liberally in what you do, because I think it helps anchor for people to go, oh, that makes sense to me. I can do that. Do you have any, besides your husband's new book, but do you have any other books or pieces of advice or any one last thing that you'd like to leave with listeners before we talk about where they can find you? Because I would love to know what are you reading right now? What's bringing you joy that you think other people should know about?
Well, what I'm reading right now is my husband's book.
Yes, good plug. We'll link that in the show notes.
Honest. Yes,
I love that.
It is. I joke with him. My degree in journalism, I specialized in editing. So anytime I read, it may take me 4 minutes to read one page because I'll look at something and go, I would have done that differently. And I go back and rewrite things. And so reading becomes work for me. So I'm about to switch to audio, although his book is perfect. I would not edit anything. But I'm getting through his book and I love it. It is great. So I really am plugging that, but it really is what I'm reading right now. And it is fabulous.
Great.
For a layperson in the finance world. I would be remiss without saying I start my morning every morning. I say my prayers and then I read the Bible. And there's many times I'm tempted not to. I'm tired. I'm hungry. The dogs need to do something. But I have to do visual cues in my mind. And I imagine if God was standing right there in front of me, which he is, would I say to him, you know what? I'm so sorry. I don't have time for you today. Okay, if you think of it that way, you'd be going, no, I can find 5 minutes. I can find 10 minutes. Yeah. It's so important. And how I do that with me, I physically keep my Bible where I put my breakfast every morning. So I would have to literally move my Bible in order to set my breakfast down and eat. And that is my little trigger of, no, I need to do that first. And I feel it on those days that I don't. God will multiply your time. He will multiply your time. You can't outgive God. And there is a reason he says, he gave us the mandate to work 6 days. A lot of people forget that too. They think, this 5-day, 9-to-5 week, that's actually not biblical either. Work 6, rest 1, work 6, rest 1. How you do that, you got to figure that out on your own. But for those of us, and Amy, you're probably like this too, that we love what we do. So we tend to work 7 days a week. That's not the model either. We got to have that 24-hour period where you take a break, you detox a little bit, you have that family time, go do something that you like. And it's hard sometimes. I will do that and I'll think, oh gosh, I'd really rather be working on, the next thing at Celebrate. And it's fun. It's like, no, I need to mentally come over here and do something different and just relax for a little bit. So that is what I'm reading.
That's beautiful. Thank you for both of those things. I think the morning routine piece is so beautiful, no matter what season you're in, where you probably did that as a mom with your young kiddo, bringing that with you. I think those things that you can keep as, rituals, as things that you anchor into every day is just a beautiful reminder. So I love that. Actually, I have one more question before I leave. Because I think sometimes if someone is listening to this and they're pivoting, or maybe they've been in corporate a long time, and they're listening and they're going, wow, Lisa is doing a second career. Like, you have a grandson, like you have a couple, you have two, how many grandkids do you have?
One.
You have, oh, just one. I mean, and you have this grandbaby, and you're doing this whole different life. What encouragement could you give to that woman? Because I think there's probably a lot of fear that's associated with,
Oh, yes.
starting something new, whether it's, waiting till your kiddo leaves the house, or just pivoting in a career. But yeah, what was that thing that helped you get from doing this to now this new chapter for you? How did you get over that jump?
It's actually not hard, because of how I lived my life and how my husband lives his life. I don't fear failure.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's a learning experience. It's like, it's not failure. I learned something 18 different times, and look, by the 19th, it's even better.
Yeah.
I don't fear failure. I fear regret. I can't live with regret. And we've all had it in our life, things that we did not do or we did not try that still gnaw at us to this day. And that doesn't taste good. And so we call it the rocking chair test, where we imagine we don't even say 100 years old anymore. We say 120 years old, sitting in our rocking chair, looking back on our life. And of course we pray, God, is this what you want us to do? If he shuts that door, we will listen. That's the first thing we do. But we sit in our mental rocking chair, and we say, okay, looking back on our life. If we didn't do X, Y, Z, if I didn't open the store, if I didn't open the firm, if I didn't try this, would I regret not having done it? And if the answer is, okay, then maybe it's not that important to you. Your why is not big enough then to get you through all the muck you're going to have to go through. But if it is, oh my gosh, I would regret that so much, then you know what? You need to go for it. And if you fail a month later, okay, that's okay. It wasn't meant to be. There's many things that didn't work out that I've done in my life, and that's okay. I don't have regret. It just wasn't meant to be. God shut that door, and he took me a different direction. So it wasn't hard from that standpoint. I'm not saying failure is not hard. But again, if you change your thinking, it's not failure, it's learning, just a different direction. It helps you take that step. And you do have to take that step. I said this to Christopher one time. I said, I think opening a small business, you plan, you do your research, you try to get all your ducks in a row. It's like being on the edge of a Louisiana swamp, and you're building your boat, and, we do a lot of Louisiana metaphors with them being our neighbors. And we have lots of alligators. So you get that boat, and you're getting ready to launch, and you get in and you go, and there's alligators around you. There's some people that plan to build the business, but they never leave the swamp. They never leave the edge of the swamp because it's safer. But they feel good. They're making progress because they're building the boat. Well, now they're going to build a bigger boat, and then a bigger boat, but they never leave the shore. Then a business owner like you, like me, we get in the boat, we leave the shore, and it's messy. Those alligators are coming after us. There's swamps. Sometimes we may fall out of the boat. We're trudging through everything, and it's not always pretty, but we're going. You just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I loved a visual, and I'll end with this one if you want me to. It's obviously following God's will. Someone told me one time, they said, following God's will, he didn't always reveal it all to you. He didn't reveal the store to me all at once. It was a 10-year process. My son graduated high school in 2014. We just opened. So do the math. That's 10 years. But it was like he was gradually pulling back the curtain. And I got to see a little bit, and then a little bit, and a little bit. But I just had to keep watching and being obedient and following, even though I didn't know the end result. But my friend described it this way. She said, it's like you're sitting in a car at night. It's pitch black, and you have your headlights on. Well, you can only see so far in front of you when you have your headlights. And that's all you're going to see until you move the car. Yes. Then you're going to see a little bit further in front of you. And then you move the car. You're going to see a little bit more in front of you. But it takes faith and obedience on your part to actually move, to take that step, to go forward, even when it's scary and you can't see. So that's what I would say is, failure is okay. It's just a learning experience. Regret, that's not something I can live with.
Wow. That was perfect. That was so beautiful. I think that metaphor will stay with people for a long time. I love that. Lisa, where can everyone find you? Tell me which, your website, your store location, so everyone can come find you or watch you on social media.
Thank you. Well, the website is Celebrate by Lisa Lou. So celebrate as it sounds, by BY, Lisa, Lisa, Lou. And side note on that, my middle name is Louise. And the reason it's Lisa Lou, all my West Texas cousins, in West Texas, or in most of Texas, we have two names. A lot of us do. And so they would call me Lisa Lou as my nickname. So Celebrate by Lisa Lou. If you go to the website, you will see our Instagram and our Facebook and all that. I do encourage everyone to follow my personal Instagram, and that is Lisa Lou Zook. And the reason I say that, the business side has the tablescapes and the events that we do, but the personal side is where we put most of the soft skills videos. So that is really where most people follow to get all those tips that we do, which is really fun.
Yeah, they're really good. So if you're listening, go find Lisa on Instagram because your videos are so good. And you always have one of your puppies with you.
Oh, yes. That's Louie.
it's always so good. But Lisa, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. I know everyone's going to get so much from this episode. And thank you for sharing all of this with us.
You're so sweet. Thank you for having me. I love you dearly. And I want you to get down to Texas as soon as you can.
I need to come see your store. So
thank
you, Lisa.
Oh, I love you. Thank you, Amy.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Business Origin Stories. Love the podcast? Be sure to share it with a friend or colleague and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Join me on Instagram and make sure to sign up for our weekly email.